Picture this. A colossal, multi-million-dollar cargo ship sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Obviously, it's a catastrophic physical event, but behind closed doors, well, a completely different type of chaos is just kicking off. What you're actually witnessing is the start of a massive, high-stakes game of hot potato between ship owners and their insurance companies. Because ultimately, someone has to pay to haul thousands of tons of steel off the seafloor, right? Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to break down exactly how this hidden world operates.
Now, you'd think the answer to this question is pretty straightforward. It's the ship owner, right? Or, whichever insurance company covers the ship. But as we're going to see today, it is not simple at all. The answer actually hinges on some incredibly complex conditional insurance triggers. We are going to unpack these mechanisms step by step, because to truly grasp the mechanics of global shipping, we literally have to explain everything in detail.
Okay, let's dive into this. We'll be walking through 1. The shipwreck liability problem. 2. Decoding the insurance alphabet. 3. When hull insurers accept. 4. When hull insurers reject. And 5. The state's direct action.
Let's start with Section 1, the shipwreck liability problem.
To kick things off, we actually need to completely rewire how we think about a sunken ship. In maritime law, a ship doesn't legally become a wreck just because it goes under the water. The physical reality of that ship sitting on the ocean floor is totally detached from its legal status. Notice the precise phrasing here. A constructive total loss doesn't actually become a total loss until it is formally accepted as one. Until that official acceptance happens, the protection and indemnity clubs, we'll define them in a second, but they're the ones who usually cover wreck removal expenses, well, they can't even get involved. Their hands are completely tied. The ship owner just cannot involve them to cover the costs until the legal status of the wreck is firmly established.
Moving on to Section 2, decoding the insurance alphabet.
To explain everything in detail and really follow the money here, we first have to decode maritime insurance's whole alphabet soup. Knowing exactly what each acronym means is literally the only way to understand who gets stuck with the final bill. First up, we have the CTL, or constructive total loss. Think of this as essentially a math problem. It's proved when the estimated cost to recover the vessel and repair it actually exceeds the insured value of the vessel itself, which is dictated by the hull clauses. But remember, proving a CTL is really just doing the math on the claim. Proving a CTL absolutely does not automatically mean the wreck is legally abandoned.
And that brings us to the NOA, or Notice of Abandonment. This is the formal legal step a shipowner takes to say, hey, I am abandoning this ship to you, the insurers, and I am claiming a total loss. Now, I want to be incredibly clear about this. The acceptance of this NOA by the insurers has absolutely nothing to do with simply proving the constructive total loss math we just talked about. They are entirely separate events.
Next up is H&M, standing for Hull and Machinery. These are the specific underwriters who insure the physical vessel itself. They're the ones sitting across the table when the owner hands over that notice of abandonment. At this specific moment, the H&M insurers hold all the cards. They get to decide whether to accept or reject the NOA, and their decision triggers the entire next phase of liability. Finally, we have the P&I, the Protection and Indemnity Club. They provide the insurance covering third-party liabilities, like the massive expenses relating to the removal of the vessel. So the crucial point is that the P&I Club cannot step in until the H&M insurers make a move. The ship literally is not a wreck for P&I purposes until the H&M insurers have acted on that notice of abandonment. The P&I Club is just waiting on the sidelines, watching the clock.
Let's look at Section 3, when hull insurers accept.
Now that we've got our terms down, let's move to and see how this builds into our first conditional pathway. What exactly happens if the hull and machinery underwriters look at that notice of abandonment and say, yes, we accept? It triggers an exact immediate chain reaction. Step 1. The H&M insurer formally accepts the abandonment. Step 2. By doing so, they acquire proprietary ownership. They take the title of the wreck. And from that exact moment, they also become liable for all the liabilities associated with it, which includes hauling away the wreck. Step 3. Because liability has officially transferred, the P&I Club's involvement drops straight to zero.
To underline just how absolute this is, check out this exact phrasing drawn straight from a P&I Club rule regarding liability for obstruction and wreck removal. It says, if the hull insurers accept the abandonment of the wreck, they assume both the title and the liabilities in respect of the wreck. Boom. It is a definitive, completely clean transfer of liability entirely away from the original shipowner.
So the ultimate result in this specific scenario is totally clear-cut. The P&I Club drops out. The association's liability for the wreck removal comes to an immediate end. because all those liabilities were cleanly transferred from the ship owner over to their hull insurers. On this path, P&I is no longer involved whatsoever. They are off the hook.
Section 4. When hull insurers reject.
But here is where things get really fascinating. It turns out taking on the massive, completely unpredictable cost of hauling a giant shipwreck off the seafloor is a pretty terrible deal. Go figure, right? So the standard practice of hull underwriters is actually to just reject the notice of abandonment to avoid that exact liability. And this brilliantly illustrates our two totally divergent paths of liability. On the left, if the NOA is accepted, H&M takes the title and the liability, and P&I drops out. But on the right, if the NOA is rejected, which again is the usual practice, the owner remains entirely liable for the wreck removal, and even worse for the owner, their P&I coverage is completely blocked from helping them directly.
So you might be wondering, why on earth is the P&I blocked? Well, because, as we established earlier, from the perspective of the P&I Club, the ship only becomes a wreck when hull insurers accept a total loss and abandon her to the owner by rejecting the NOA. Until that specific, highly technical issue is legally resolved between the owner and the hull insurer, the ship simply isn't legally a wreck for P&I purposes. Therefore, the owner cannot get the P&I Club to pay them directly to cover the removal costs. It's a total catch-22.
So we're left in this bizarre legal limbo. Until the paperwork clears, any removal order is a concern solely for the hull underwriter. Neither the owner nor the P&I Club are held legally liable in that strict P&I insurance sense until the hull and machinery underwriters either accept the total loss or firmly abandon it back to the owner by finalizing that rejection. It's basically a high-stakes standoff.
Finally, Section 5, the state's direct action.
So we have this massive standoff. But there's a giant metal hazard sitting in the middle of a vital shipping lane or maybe polluting a beautiful coastline, right? We have to shift our focus from this abstract private insurance plane to the actual physical location, the state where the wreck is sitting. Because while the insurers and owners play this complex legal game of hot potato over paperwork, what if the state gets impatient?
Well, they pull out the ultimate legal trump card. Under Article 12 of the Wreck Removal Convention, the state does not have to wait for this insurance logjam to clear. The convention actually allows the state to just step in and arrange the wreck removal themselves. They can completely bypass the owner. They bypass the H&M insurers. Instead, the state can claim the costs directly against the Blue Card, which is a certificate of insurance providing security.
And to show you just how robust and, frankly, powerful the state's bypass power really is, let's look at a specific edge case. What happens if there is no hull and machinery insurance at all? What if that entire side of the equation doesn't even exist?
The state still wins. Step 1, if there's no H&M but a Blue Card exists, Article 12 applies and the state claims against the Blue Card directly. Step 2, if there isn't even a Blue Card, the state pursues the ship owner directly for the funds. But Step 3 is the real kicker for the owner. Either way, regardless of whether H&M exists or not, the owner's attempt to get reimbursement from their P&I Club stays solidly blocked until a constructive total loss is formally accepted. The owner is left entirely holding the bag.
We've thoroughly decoded the alphabet soup today, and what it reveals is a stunning reality about global shipping. The massive legal shields protecting literally billions of dollars in assets rest on incredibly thin technicalities. Whether a shipping company goes bankrupt over a wreck or walks away totally unscathed can hinge entirely on a single act of legal acceptance, just one yes or no to a piece of paper. It really makes you wonder, the next time a massive cargo ship goes down, who will be the one left holding the hot potato when the music stops? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.